Welcome to The Real Build. This is Jamila, your host. And if you've been listening along, we have now moved into, I believe, our 12th show. We're 3 months in. This is incredible. We have talked a ton about city zoning bylaws and infill development and how to know what to do with your properties. We've talked about how political things influence construction, all these deep topics. And today we're lightening up a bit. We are going to jump into design and, most importantly, cabinets. Most people just think about kitchens, but cabinet design. I have a very special guest, and I think I say this every time because they're all special. I work with all these people in this industry. Corinna Say your last name.
Haimerl.
Thank you. Thank you. I practiced that a ton of times before we came on air, and I knew I had to hand that over to her or I would have butchered it.
It's not a very easy last name either.
Corinna, thanks for being here with us today.
I'm super excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I mean, so we've been working together just recently, actually. We've started working together on some new construction homes. But I get to learn about you a bit more today, which is exciting. So I always want to know how people made the journey into working in the construction industry in all aspects of it. So talk to me about, like, how did you end up in Kelowna and end up in cabinets?
Oh, way back when, once upon a time. No, as my last name kind of gives away, I'm not originally from Canada. Mm-hmm. Born in Germany, raised in Germany, and I'm one of these oddball kind of people that knew pretty much from a young age what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be in interior design. I always wanted to be in architecture. But fun enough, I'm the only one in my family that is really in this kind of like field of industry.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so the creative kind of aspect of side of things.
Yeah.
But since I was basically 12, I always thought, okay, I know where I want to go. I know where I want to study. So I finished my high school degree in Germany and then moved on to the University of Coburg. It's the most renowned interior design program in Germany you can find.
Wow.
Yeah, they only accept like 40 people a year, and I was one of them. And
wow.
Absolutely loved every second of it.
So I have to say I've worked with a few different kitchen designers and designers in town, and your attention to detail and the history of some of the kitchens you post in your social media fields and what you've designed is really like, wow. And now I understand why. You've been accepted into this prestigious design school.
Correct, yes. And your degree would be like interior architect. So I'm more like an interior architect, but not registered in Canada. So I'm not like really allowed to call myself that.
Details, yes.
No, but we said no politics. So.
Right.
So I have my bachelor's in interior architecture. And my husband and I, we both kind of always felt the draw to North America, but always thought United States.
Okay.
But it's like we grew up both in like a small town where we actually have more US soldiers living there than Germans.
Okay.
So that's kind of like how that connection happened.
Okay.
But we said, you know what, let's just try it. Let's come over for a year. But as you know, getting a visa for the US is not as easy as for Canada.
Okay.
So we just said, you know what, let's try it. Let's get in the draw. Let's see if we get a visa. Well, sure enough, within 2 weeks, we both got accepted for a working visa and said within 3 months, we sold everything we had and came to Toronto with only like 4 bags. Oh
my gosh!
Yeah, it's a crazy story. I still sometimes can't believe that we actually made that.
We're on the radio right now. You can't see my faces. You can go to our YouTube channel. I'll load some videos there. But I am just in shock. I mean, think of that, selling everything you have and leaving a country you were. How old were you?
I was 22. I just turned 22.
22. Okay, so
I didn't own much really at this point.
Ready for adventure and young and dumb enough to make it happen, right?
Yeah. And young and dumb enough to start in Toronto. Honestly, we said, like, let's try to find a job somewhere, wherever we want to be in Canada.
Yeah.
And Toronto, sure enough, I had this crazy opportunity, which just fell into my lap almost.
Okay.
Like I started with Boltaup. I'm not sure if anyone will be familiar with them, but they're a high luxury kitchen brand from Germany.
Oh.
So they, fun enough, they only like fabricated their kitchens half an hour to where I lived at that point of time. And I didn't know that. And the owner of the pull-tab store in Toronto was trying to find another salesperson and designer for the location. And also, fun enough, he was speaking German. His kids were German, lived in Germany half of the time.
It was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and like 2 weeks after I sent my application in, he actually was flying into that location to visit his kids, so we could set up like an interview right there and then.
Wow. Wow. I mean, if there's anything more made to be than that, is that.
Exactly. But funny enough, at this point, I knew like not really much about kitchens, to be frankly honest. I was an interior architect. I was supposed to design schools, churches, commercial spaces, hotels, kind of like that aspect of things. So even back then, my mind was like, oh, yeah, it's kitchens. How
I'll start
complicated
here.
can it be?
Yeah.
Boy, did I not know much back then.
Yeah.
But it was like a whirlwind. Even though consider like these kitchens back then, they were like spec'd kitchens, so you could not really modify much.
Yeah.
So like my creative brain got really sick and tired of it real quick, to be frankly honest.
Okay.
And then my husband decided to go back to college, and we wanted to stay in Canada, so we ended up moving to London, Ontario, where then I worked for an interior designer and kind of just got into the world of custom kitchens a little bit more.
Yes.
And the moment I was able to design a truly custom kitchen, it just captured my heart.
Yeah.
From like the engineering side of things. What can my materials do? What are actually codes and regulations and all the boring things that somebody might think of? I really got sucked into this world.
Yeah.
And never left since. I left Ontario, thank God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just fell in love with kitchens and the cabinet world of things and how it just creates the heart of the home.
Well, and I'm glad you said the heart of the home, because I was going to say the kitchen is the heart of the home. But designing it is as hard as, well, there's going to be some doctors out there that'll disagree with me, but heart surgery, right? Like you've got all the plumbing, all the electrical, the countertop surfaces, your backsplashes, you're putting an oven in there that cooks things at 500 degrees. You have to make sure your ventilation, your combustible materials, there's a lot to consider when you're piecing this all together. Like the cabinets can't light on fire beside the stove.
Yeah,
like,
I never want to get that phone
like
call,
that.
please. I really don't. That's the last phone call I want.
Yeah. So, I mean, most people look at it as like, oh, I'm just going to get a white shaker cabinet and slap her up there. But
oh, no, thank you very much.
yeah, there's a ton.
Not anymore.
There's a lot of pieces involved. And so obviously what was your degree again? Design?
Interior architect.
Interior architect that plays a big role in the success of custom designed.
It definitely
kitchens.
makes my life easier.
Yeah.
Because my mindset is all different kind of traits, not just from like representing. Oh my goodness, that was a hard one. Clients, but also make sure all the trades get together at the same time.
Yeah.
From the builders or the renovator to the plumber to the demolition crew to the framers, drywallers, painters, like you name it. Like there are so many moving parts that most people are really realizing as quickly, because all they see most of the time is a beautiful end result.
Yeah.
But all the hiccups and the trauma and the headaches sometimes that go along with it, we usually try to keep it away from the clients to shelter them as much as we can.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always something happening.
Yeah. And, so we do a lot of new construction together, and we'll talk more about that later in the show, what it's like designing a kitchen with new construction. But the details on the plans of cabinetry work, and I'm sure I don't do renos, so this is probably very similar in renos as well, but you need to line up all of your electrical, all of your plumbing, gas, if you've got gas stove, you've got a lot of wall ovens and cooktops and ventilation requirements,
Even just outlet positions, like things like that. We have to follow code, but not every outlet fits into every cabinet or every spot. So kind of like playing the way around it to make sure it is actually functioning at the end, not just pretty.
Yeah.
Is a big role.
Yeah. And okay, we're going to dive more into these details later on in the show. So you're in London, Ontario.
Yes.
How do you end up in a beautiful Kelowna?
It's like It's honestly a typical story for anyone you ask here.
Came on vacation.
Absolutely.
See, tourism, Airbnb, it's got to come back. Sorry, that was my little plug there.
And we rented an Airbnb back then. So just a little side hint right there.
There you go.
Back in 2019, my husband and I, we just became permanent residents. So definitely at this point, Canada didn't get rid of us no more.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, it's time to actually see something from Canada.
Yeah.
So from London, Ontario, we flew into Edmonton, rented a cheap Wrangler, and then just kind of drove through Alberta and BC. And at the moment we drove into Kelowna, we were like, yep, no, we're moving. There's no way around it. And half a year later, we moved.
Classic story. Once you see Kelowna, it just hangs on to you and you need to set up shop. So that is how we got you here from Germany, a wonderful kitchen designer. Stay tuned. We're going to dive into everything you need to know if you're going to do a renovation with your cabinets. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Real Build. This is Jamila, your host, and today we are talking everything cabinets. My guest, Corinna, she's a kitchen designer, design consultant, originally from Germany, and if you've been listening, she made her way to the beautiful city of Kelowna on vacation and couldn't turn back. So welcome, Corinna. Now you work for a really well-known cabinet company in town, Norelco.
Correct.
Yeah, they're a great locally owned, locally made, also outsourced, but locally made product.
Yeah.
And you've been working in the kitchen industry in Kelowna now for how long?
Just about 5 years now.
5 years.
Just in Kelowna.
In Kelowna. And then you in Ontario, how long were you working?
I was working in the kitchen industry for about 4 years there.
Okay, so you're coming up on a decade.
Oh,
You are seasoned.
Yeah.
You're
getting there.
And now I want to talk about renovations, right? So, I mean, everyone looks at their kitchen at some point in time and is like, oh, I wish I could tear this thing out and put in something new.
Usually, especially after holiday seasons of any kind of sort of shape or form. As soon as they entertain, and someone brings it up,
Yeah. So let's talk about options and where you kind of start if you were going to tear these cabinets out.
Talk to your professionals first before you start swinging the sledgehammer.
Who do I call? A reno contractor? Do I start with you at the cabinet company? Like, where do I go?
If in doubt, yes, come to talk to me first because I can guide you in every direction. Mm-hmm. If you need just an electrician or a plumber, or if you need a full-on contractor, every project is ever so slightly different. Mm-hmm. So it definitely helps to come talk to us first. Mm-hmm. And then we can just guide you through the entire project and the entire process, as it's more usually just like replacing it, because the main reason to redo your kitchen is mainly because you cannot stand how it works anymore.
Yeah.
Not just because you want to have soft close slides. So there's usually like a bigger aspect of things behind it.
Well, and the reality is, even if you're going to not touch walls or like open up spaces, if you're pulling your cabinets out, like new countertops, new plumbing, new flooring,
new appliances,
you're going to have to paint.
Yeah.
Maybe you reuse your appliances. Who knows?
You could too, absolutely,
right?
for sure.
But everything's attached to these cabinets, right? So you have to be thinking of a big picture.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. Like there are always way more moving parts than you think. So definitely expect the unexpected, because you never know what happens behind wall number 1 or 2, or even just behind a cabinet. We had it a couple of times where people uninstalled their hood ventilation, like their hood itself.
Okay.
And then realized it was actually never connected to anything.
Problem.
Exactly. So what do you do now? At this point, you need to make sure you have the right trades on your hand to get things done efficiently.
Yeah.
Without the crazy cost attached to it.
Well, and what you're talking about, like your hood ventilation, is to vent everything outside. So you're talking about now finding a way to penetrate an exterior wall and add the piping and the ventilation to get to there. So if you're standing and you're looking at your stove and your hood fan, and okay, don't freak out, because you could have an OTR, an over the range microwave, which recircs that back into the space. It's not connected and plumbed outside your house. We don't want people to
exactly.
start calling. Oh my gosh. Anyway, but so if you are, though, going to be upgrading to a nice hood vent or not having an OTR over the range microwave, you need to vent this outside. So if your stove is on an interior wall or something like that, you're going to need to now consider and factor in cutting that wall open or going up into your roof if you got your attic exposed. And it's not, don't get scared about it. It's not
as hard as it sounds.
It's not as hard as it sounds. It just involves a few more people. Yeah. And a little more complicated than just buying a new hood range and plunking it into your kitchen.
Correct. Yeah. And that's why it's important to talk to people in this industry. Mm-hmm. If you just do like a simple re-and-re, you reuse everything you have, it gets a little bit easier. But like as soon as you want to improve the layout or like the configuration a bit, it is definitely helpful. It doesn't cost anything to talk to me about your project.
Yeah.
So like even to help you guide in the right directions, you don't have to pay me nothing for it really. But it's all things considered. And like I said, like I will help you guide in the right directions. Like who do you actually need? What do you have to think of?
Yeah.
Because even if you decide to like get with new appliances, there are also not just like a hood and that's it. No, like there are so many different types and needs and requirements for everything, but you don't have to worry about it because like I'm here to help you through it. So it doesn't look like this impossible task and actually tones it down to make it straightforward.
Yeah.
And you can focus on the nice things about the beautiful end solution and like the result of it all.
Now, you touched on some lingo, some industry lingo, re-and-re or reconfiguration. That's key. Re-and-re means you're putting everything back. You're buying all new stuff, but you're putting it back in the same spot. So where your kitchen sink is right now, you're putting your kitchen sink cabinet back there. Where your stove is right now, you're putting your stove back there.
With exact same sizes too. Like not changing nothing.
Yeah, same sizes. And this is important to understand. Re-and-res can probably be less expensive. You can probably have less of the different trades involved. But if you're going to be changing your configuration, so if you're like, oh, I would love, it's always bugged me, my sink just never was centered on the window, and I don't know why this happened, and I just want it centered on my window. Well, even if it's 5 inches movement of all your plumbing fixtures, that has to be extended, connected, whether that means now cutting into the floor and extending that piping or going through a wall, unless it's an exterior wall.
And then it's a whole different issue altogether.
Whole different thing, yeah. So that I think that's a key tidbit to take away. That if you're going to start a renovation and you're looking to be budget conscious, then consider maintaining your plumbing and electrical in the same places they are now.
That will definitely help for sure.
And gas too, because if you have an existing gas stove, right?
And if you don't want to replace your flooring, kind of same thing.
Yeah, because you could trim work is wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, you could pull that cabinet out and you could do some nice trim work if there's any oopsies that happen in that process. I mean, that's what trim was designed for, is to cover everyone's oopsies, right? So, so those are some really good tips if you want to try and keep a tight budget, leave things in the same spot, buy appliances that are same size.
Exactly. And that's a nice and beautiful thing about it all too. As soon as you talk custom kitchens, we can do it all. You can have like a new configuration, but for like what I call a beer budget.
Yes.
So you can have a beautiful new kitchen for a fraction of the cost.
Yes.
Because the finished material is just about the same. Right?
Yes.
So you still need new countertops eventually. So if you just reconfigure it ever so slightly, you have maybe like another $1,000 difference, but you have a whole new kitchen.
Yeah.
So it depends like what your situation looks like, really.
We don't want to discourage you from reconfiguring your kitchen because it's not going from a $10,000 kitchen to a $40,000 kitchen right away off the bat.
Absolutely
like
not.
It's segments where you can continue going, and someone who's got 10 years history in the industry can kind of guesstimate that in your planning time before you tear anything out, right?
Exactly.
Like, don't tear the kitchen out before you talk to your kitchen designer.
No, please stop. I don't want you to tear anything out before anything is in production. Yeah. Let's be clear. And like that's, like I said, like that's where I can help you, guide you through it, as simply like the smallest changes, the smallest tweaks of moving one cabinet over to the other side, for instance, that can help saving you money or cost you more money. And I will be able to help you as long as I know what your budget is.
Yes. So I think as we wrap up talking about renos, where to start, how it works, is it's free to walk in and talk to a kitchen designer. Obviously, we recommend going seeing Corinna at Norelco and chatting with her, but they will come to the home, measure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give us a call or like give me a call, shoot me an email, and we can just even set up a preliminary appointment. Come by the showroom, look at the product, see our shop that is just behind the door, just on the other side of the showroom. Just get a feel for it.
Yeah, get an understanding of what you could do and ballpark numbers. So renos, that's where you start. Talk to your kitchen designer. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about new construction, what makes it different, what to think about, what to look for. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to The Real Build. I'm your host, Jamila, and today we're talking kitchens. Well, cabinets in general. Everyone thinks kitchens, but they are in your bathroom and other places in your home. Corinna, thank you for being here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. We're having some fun. Now, Corinna is a kitchen designer with Norelco, a great cabinet company here in town. There's a handful of great cabinet companies here in town. It's actually a pretty cool industry that Kelowna can stand behind, really.
It's really unique for like how small Kelowna is per se. We have an amazing selection of like super talented people.
Yeah. And like locally built product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like not very often that it happens that you have your shop right attached to your showroom in the scale that the Kelowna shops are doing it.
Yeah.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Which tells me there's a lot of people out there either doing renovations or building new construction.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the Okanagan, it's growing. We're getting there.
So let's talk new construction. Anyone out there who is considering, tearing that kitchen out and redoing it, maybe we just take the whole house down and start from scratch.
Reset button.
And if that's the case, you can call me. But so new construction. Now, when you the kitchen comes into play right at the beginning, right when you're designing the home. Again, it's the heart of the home. So when you're considering your layouts, the people building the home have thought thoroughly about their kitchen. And typically, if there is any inspiration photos of what they want their house to be, it is of the kitchen. So it is really where the design of the home starts.
It's your heart of the home for a reason.
Now, tell me a few tips. Lots of people build new homes, but they typically do it once and they haven't done it before when they're getting into it. So what are some tips of the trade when you're considering designing a new home and designing a new kitchen? Because it is blank air. You can do whatever you want. So what are some things you should be thinking about?
Your sky is the limit or the budget, either way.
Yeah.
One thing, definitely talk to your trades ahead of time. Like cabinet world, honestly, if you didn't talk to me before the permits are in, we are running behind.
Yeah.
Because ideally, I want to be able to even still move a window ever so slightly to make it absolutely perfect. There's, like you said, it's a blank canvas. So we can make it as perfect as we want to. And if that means we're just moving a couple of things ever so slightly, we're going to do it because we still can.
Well, and this touches upon something we've talked about in previous shows, and this is becoming a new standard in BC, which is like an integrated design process where typically people think you go and you design your home and then you shop around for some builders while you're submitting for a building permit or, getting them to cost things out. Then you submit for a building permit. Then you go and visit your cabinet designer and realize that because you didn't pick anything and because you haven't been in a shop yet, that you need to spend maybe 20 grand more than you thought.
And it happens quite quickly.
Maybe you want to move the sink and the fridge, the stove somewhere else because the kitchen designer has a flow-through way of good ideas and how this can work. And now you're changing drawings that are in for building permits. So I am a big promoter and believer of integrated design process. You should find your builder when you're doing your plans, be working with them in the design process, and they'll be consulting with their trades on tips and what they should do before you even lock these plans down. So that's super key. Yes.
100%. And at the end, it will save you money. It really does.
100%. Yeah.
Because you can never plan enough.
Yeah.
Like the more you can plan and select ahead of time, the more money you will save.
Yeah. And for example, you know, like your building plans come out and it has your kitchen layouts that your drafting person probably put on there.
Who's not a kitchen designer.
And then you go and you visit with the cabinet company and you draw up your drawings for your cabinets. And maybe you have moved the sink somewhere, or maybe you have moved the stove over slightly, or the island has shifted over just because you're tweaking it now. You're like really bringing it together. So what happens there is the cabinet designer visits the site, does a site measure.
Yep.
They will mark the floors, mark out where electrical's going, where the plumbing's going to go, where your sink is, where all this stuff, and they'll put the new signed off plans with a nail on the wall, right?
Or a stapler. Yeah.
Or a stapler.
Either way.
However, your plumbing contractor, your electrical contractor, they have only ever seen these building permit plans.
Yes. And that can sometimes create big issues if like their flow between all the different trades is not on the same, like they're not on the same boat.
Right.
So that's always good to make sure you pick your builder and contractor that has like an open conversation with all trades. Mm-hmm. Like again, it will just save you money at the end.
Well, but when you're providing your trades this original plan that they're looking at and working from, and then they're arriving to site, and then now they're seeing, you know, typically you would also send these revised kitchen drawings out to everyone, right? But now you've got two different plans floating around. Now, this is a part of good construction management, but you are opening up the room for errors to potentially happen.
Yes, for
right?
sure.
So what we're saying is meet with the kitchen designer in the design process and incorporate what you really want in that kitchen into those plans.
Yeah, if it can already be as spot on as possible on the permit plans, the lesser you're exposed to the room for error.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about, is it the triangle?
The kitchen triangle. Yeah, your functionality, your walking distances, the practical space of your kitchens. There's so many little things that even changed over the last 10 years alone that, like, just with the idea of the wall ovens not being necessarily under the cooktop. Like, how does that affect everything? I mean, Jamila and I, we just created like a duplex that kind of is breaking the triangle ever so slightly.
Right. I don't like to be in triangles or boxes, but
we're outside the shape. We're outside the shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it really comes down to like understanding how you're using your space, how you cook, how you prep, how you entertain. Like not every person is like identical to the next. So why would the kitchen design be identical to the next person?
Yes.
So it's very important to just have conversations on how you even like operate through your kitchen.
Like if you always chop your vegetables beside your sink because you want to rinse them off and not drag water across, but then you would love to have a garbage can there where you just like pull everything because now you're picking up your messy garbage and it's dripping from your hands like all your vegetable cuttings.
Ruins your beautiful new floor.
And you're walking across, you're like, you do a pit stop at the sink for a drip and then you keep going to the garbage, right? I'm literally do that in my kitchen now. I need a new kitchen. But like these are the things you can eliminate when you're designing from scratch. And these are the things that kitchen designers think about and pay attention to when they're putting together new kitchens for you.
Exactly. So like I said, we're guiding you through the entire progress and like ask you these questions that you would not think of yourself. And that's kind of the difference for us if you would order it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like you have like a basic understanding what you think you would want it to look like, but we push your envelope a little bit to like come down to the perfect kitchen design for you. Because like I said, there are many, many little moving parts that no one usually thinks of other than us.
Yeah. Oh, like drawers. We could talk a whole nother show about kitchen drawers.
Oh, yeah, that alone. Yeah, that would be like an hour right there.
Okay, so today we've been talking about kitchen design. We just talked about kind of new construction, some tips and tricks and how to do it well and eliminate mistakes. Next up, we're going to talk about kitchen trends, you know, the difference between purchasing a kitchen from IKEA or Home Hardware or going to a cabinet supplier, what to look for, all the tips and tricks straight from Corinna. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Real Build. This is Jamila, your host, and we are talking cabinets, which obviously comes down to the kitchen because, you know, that's the most important place we put them, you know, until we want toilet paper in the bathroom. We're like, why is there a cabinet here? Anyway, Corinna with Norelco Cabinets, thank you for coming in and talking to us today.
It's awesome to be here.
We have talked about your journey from Germany, being one of 40 people accepted into
Interior
architecture in Germany, and then making the venture across the pond to Canada, landing in Ontario, and then road tripping our beautiful country and visiting Kelowna and
Like a typical story.
calling it home. I mean, that's how we all ended up here, except for, you know, the handful of people who still lived here, who grew up here.
They're all unicorns.
Yeah. And so we've been talking kitchen design, reno tips, new construction tips. One thing I'd love to chat with you today about is like, there's a lot of options out there for cabinets.
Tons.
And like Rona, Home Hardware, Home Depot, IKEA, where you don't really have a kitchen designer, right?
You just have an order entry person per se. Yeah.
And you've got the grid and you're at home with the measuring tape.
Correct.
And you're trying to figure it out. Or IKEA's got a great online program too.
Which has its own glitches.
Fair, right? What now? And then the next step is like a cabinet company, like a Norelco, like a Westwood, Century Lane. There's quite a few different cabinet companies in town where they make their own product.
Correct.
In-house and
all custom built.
And
just for you.
Ship stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And bring stuff in. So what can I'm assuming because if I go to a Rona or Home Hardware, I'm going to get a good deal. Like it's going to be cheap. They have like cash and carry, all that kind of stuff.
Correct. Yeah. So if you just want to have like a little sweet kitchen, like basic, nothing fancy, like 3 cabinets and you're good to go, basically. Mm-hmm. You're good to go. Mm-hmm. Like, and they offer installation, I believe, as well with the cabinet packages, stone countertops, so you can get it all.
Okay.
But you have to coordinate the entire schedule yourself.
Right.
And if you screw up because your appliances don't fit now, it's on you. If you don't fulfill code because you didn't allow for an extra outlet in the island, it's on you.
You're missing that information.
Correct, because there are just so many like informations, points, and things to consider when planning a kitchen. Which is like, even for us, it's sometimes hard to keep up on the changes that are required.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how a normal person is trying to coordinate through it.
But it's not like if I came into Norelco, you guys have entry-level product just like you would find.
Oh, absolutely.
At a Rona Home Hardware.
Yep.
But I would have the assistance of a kitchen designer to help guide me through and make sure I wasn't missing any of these things.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, we're actually running comparison pricing to IKEA quite often, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And as soon as you like separate what we're actually quoting against between like what the cabinets actually look like, one-to-one material, the coordination between, okay, you still have to pick it up, you still have to get it delivered or installed if you don't want to install it yourself. Mm-hmm. We are within 10% of what IKEA kitchens cost.
Right.
So if like we offer that too, by the way, like if you just want to install it yourself, you do supply only.
And just buy the cabinets. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With a design that works.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's worth visiting a local company, locally made, local jobs in that warehouse, putting that stuff together. The design assistants to make sure you're hitting these details of code compliance and the little things that are thought about. So we're going to say visit your local cabinet supplier for sure.
And like I said earlier in this interview, in case you have listened for a while here, it doesn't cost you guys anything to even just book an initial conversation with us.
Yeah.
So we can talk about like what are you looking for, like the time frames, your budget, and see, and like even guide you if you're on the right track or if you're miles from reality.
Totally. So gone are the days of wood cabinets, right? Like,
actually, fun enough, they're coming back.
But real wood or laminate?
Both.
Am I saying the right word? What is when you're not using
laminate or melamine?
Laminate or melamine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like they're definitely in the forerunner just because they're like super low in maintenance, like very easy to clean, and honestly cheap for
Durable.
what you're getting.
For laminate and melamine.
Correct. And the melamines are getting so freaking good.
Yeah.
So when you think of melamine and you still have this cheap plasticky product in mind. Well, it was 15 years ago. Like the last 5 years alone made a massive jump into the right direction.
So the way I kind of explain that, and I use this a lot too with flooring, because in flooring it's rare to even use an engineered hardwood anymore. Vinyls and laminates have really surpassed because of durability. But the biggest thing is, if you can think about picture quality, where picture quality has gone in the last decade. Think about the phone you had 10 years ago and the picture you took of grandma or your kids and the quality of the picture you can create today, right?
It's massive.
With filters and all of that kind of stuff. So laminate materials is all a picture of the wood grain, of the wood. And then, you know, we all love airbrushing these days.
Oh,
we airbrush everything. And then replicated and put onto a reel of material that then gets applied to the door face.
Most of the time, even with the matching texture. So like when you touch it.
And texture.
It feels like real wood when you're touching it now. It's insane.
It's very hard to tell. It's more cost effective and more durable.
And then think about it. For instance, like rift white oak has been a popular wood for the longest time. But it can be extremely pink, just off the nature of the wood. So it can happen that your beautiful rift white oak kitchen island comes out pink. You won't get that with like your melamines, for instance, because what you see is what you get.
Yes.
Like a tree is a tree. Every tree is so unique to the next. So you can only have so much control over like what it turns out to be.
Well, and the beauty of wood, the beauty of natural products is that you have a knot in it and it falls out and now there's a hole, right? And you have these different grains and textures and it absorbs stain in a different way. And like there used to be this people really understood and appreciated that and wanted to pay for that look. And then it moved into this place of like, well, my sample looks like this and this part of this cabinet over here is so different.
I love how your voice just got high pitched. That's perfect. But it's so true.
And then
it's so true.
All of a sudden we had all these waivers with everyone of like buying wood and being like, just so you know, this is a natural product. It will it's going to be what it's going to be.
You cannot help a tree grow.
Exactly. And so from there, the movement into laminate materials became very popular because your sample was just reproduced consistently, consistent colors, consistent grains, consistent looks.
And even like when you talk about replacing fronts, like how often does it happen that you damage one front because like your dog chewed on the corner or something, right?
Or the kettle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The kettle on the counter.
Oh, yeah.
Pull the kettle forward, people. Let the steam go.
Escape.
Yes.
Avoid the bubbling.
I have 2 ex-husbands. I would need to tell that.
Because of that.
Pull the kettle forward.
But it's so true. And then like try to replace a wood door with a brand new sheet of veneer on it.
Yeah.
Versus one that's already 5 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Wood is fading.
Yeah.
Like even though you put the same stain color on it,
doesn't matter.
It will look different.
Yeah, it didn't sit in the sun for 15 years through that window.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With melamines, you won't have that issue.
Yeah. I mean, unless there's a dye lot change or a product change or it's discontinued.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a whole different issue.
Yeah. Yeah. But the point is that picture technology and it is a consistent product. People want to see the same thing they had. They don't like getting surprises. Yeah. And it's more cost effective.
Yeah, so it's a win-win and a win.
And a win-win. Okay, so we learned a lot today, Corinna. Thank you for coming out. We learned that really if you're going to design a new kitchen, visit one of our many great cabinet shops in town.
And beautiful showrooms. We are so lucky here in town.
Great showrooms, lots of inspiration. Corinna, you can find her at Norelco. For free, they will consult with you on a plan and what to do. They will tell you if your budget is out to lunch because no one wants to get into a project that doesn't happen. It's a lot of time.
And we won't lie to you either. If you're like miles off, we will tell you.
Yes.
We're a little bit harsh on that one.
Yeah. So if you've been sitting around thinking, hey, this winter, I'm redoing my kitchen, there's all the tips on how you get started. Thanks for tuning in with us. We will see you next Tuesday.